Welcome to Powered by Her, exploring the stories of how area women power their business. Hear from the growing network of female entrepreneurs of the Upper Cumberland with your host, Tiffany Anton, director at the Biz Foundry. Powered by Her starts now.
Hello, you're listening to Powered by Her in the Hints and Oakley Podcast Center. I'm Tiffany Anton with the Biz Foundry, and I have a different sort of guest today in the realm of a nonprofit. So that's a little different than what I've done before. But Becky Davidson is here. Good morning, Becky.
Good morning, Tiffany. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you. So tell me about we're going to talk about your entrepreneurial journey, which starting a nonprofit is maybe even more difficult because of the heart that goes into it and the lack of money that comes from a nonprofit. True. So tell me about your nonprofit.
So I am co-founder and president of Rising Above Ministries, and Rising Above is an outreach ministry to the special needs community. And my late husband, Jeff, and I started it in 2005, kind of out of our own experiences of being special needs parents. I'm the mom to an amazing 21-year-old son, John Alex, who has profound special needs. And we saw early on in his life just, the challenges that we faced as special needs parents, and that sense of longing to have a community of other people who understood and got what our life was like. And so in 2005, we started Rising Above Ministries just to offer support and community to families in the Upper Cumberland, having absolutely no idea how it would grow over these years.
So your intention was just a small kind of little...
We had no idea. I mean, we honestly were just like, we want to reach out to the families here in the Cookeville, Upper Cumberland area. And we started off by hosting a monthly gathering, a monthly worship service for special needs families to come together, because so often special needs families find it challenging to go to church because of their child's unique needs. Thankfully, that's gotten better over these years. But when we were starting out, I mean, there was no one ever had heard of a special needs ministry at a church. It was unheard of. And so we wanted to create a safe place where, we always would say, if your child needs to be up running around, we don't care. If your child makes noises, don't worry about it, because our child will be louder than anyone. So just to create a safe, welcoming space for families to come. So we started off there, and then it just grew.
So how old was John?
John Alex was about 8 or 9 years old when we started.
So what did you do for the first 8 or 9 years of his life? Did you feel like you were on an island?
Oh, my goodness. I remember feeling like literally we were the only family in Putnam County who had a child with special needs, because we never saw anybody else. Mm-hmm. We knew there were other families here. We saw families like when we'd go to school and whatnot, but like at church or other places, we didn't see anybody else. And I remember just going, we are the only ones here in this town who have a child with special needs. And then when we started Rising Above, the family started coming out of the woodwork. Yeah. And we just started realizing, oh my goodness, there is such a need for this. And so that's when we started adding in events.
So how did this take me back to 2004 maybe?
Yes.
And Jeff comes to you, or you go to Jeff?
I think it was just really, we were together, quite honestly. We were just at a place where we were like, we've got to create something. And I don't remember it being one or the other so much. It was just kind of conversations that we would have. And just through those conversations going, okay, this is something that's got to happen. So we actually worked with 2 other couples and worked together to form the nonprofit and get it off the ground at that point.
Where did you, so clearly this is something that's real passionate to you.
Yes.
And touches your life every single day. Yes. But starting a nonprofit is not, and in 2005, Google's probably around then, but
a little bit, yeah.
How do you even know where to start?
Well, one of the things that I have learned over these years, and Jeff was really good at, is, you go to people who know more than you do.
Yes.
You don't have to have all the answers. I think so often we're like, well, we've got to know everything, and we've got to have everything. We got to know absolutely how to do everything. Well, you can't know everything. And so being willing to go to somebody who knows more than you do and have them walk through step by step how you do that. For us, it was Nancy Knowlton at the Cookeville Pregnancy Service, Crisis Pregnancy Center at the time. And she was a dear friend of ours. And so she sat down with us and kind of helped us, go through that. We had another nonprofit who gave us their charter and how they found it. And we kind of took that and then wrote our own from that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with going to somebody else who knows more than you do and gathering information from them.
Do you think that that's unique to this community to find people that are going to hold your hand through that and say, yep, I'll help you. Let me be with you.
I really do. I have been in different communities where it's, especially in the nonprofit world, there's so much competition because there's only so many dollars to go around. Mm-hmm. And when you are, starting a nonprofit, you go, we were going from having a salary to having to raise our own funding, in order for us to make a living. And so there is that sense, I think, in other communities. I've never seen anything like it in Cookeville, where we all come together as nonprofit leaders and encourage each other and help each other. And it's like, I love it when, especially now, like there's certain things that we know how to do really well. And so we'll share that knowledge with other people. Then there's things that other nonprofits do really well, and we will go to them or they will come to us and go, hey, we know how to do that. Here's an easier way to make that happen. So I think Cookeville is very unique in that.
So you mentioned a little bit of you went from earning a salary to doing a nonprofit. Yeah. So what were you guys doing? What was your previous life before?
Okay. So, well, Jeff, I went to school and got an elementary education degree. Mm-hmm. So I taught before John Alex was born. I taught at Capshaw, actually, before John Alex was born. And then I decided, I wanted to be able to stay home. So I stayed home with John Alex. And
was that your plan before?
Yes, we'd planned it all along to wait to have children until I could stay home. And I'm so thankful that we did, because especially with his special needs, that was going to end up being so critical. But Jeff, when we were married, we first got married, he was in the corporate world and sold commercial insurance and was, like an excellent salesman, top in the company. And we were doing really well. We were living in our dream home. We had really nice cars. We had a pool and a hot tub. We were living, quote unquote, the dream, And then we felt we were called to go into ministry. And I'll remember the conversations that we had of, how are we going to do this? How are we going to pay? We're looking at having this much income to all of a sudden, we took an 80% pay cut in order to do it. But we just knew that we were supposed to do it and that it would all work out. And it did. Yeah. And we have not missed a beat. It's just God's provided the whole way through everything.
Yeah. What do you think your personal strengths are that have kind of led you to be able to be successful in running a nonprofit?
Well, I think for me, I think one of the greatest compliments I got after Jeff died and I took over the role of leader at Rising Above, one of my board members said to me, he said, "You're teachable." Mm-hmm. And he said, I was not afraid to go to him and be vulnerable and go, "I do not know how to do this." Mm-hmm. That's kind of scary as a woman coming in to this leadership role, and you want to act like I've got it all figured out. I've got it together. But for me to be able to be vulnerable and go, "I really have no clue how to do this. Would you mind sitting down and walking me through?" And it was amazing because it just showed the leadership of our organization, the board members, she doesn't know these things yet, but she's willing to learn these things, and she's willing for us to sit down and show her how to do them. And so I think being teachable is one thing. Also, I feel like I got some tenacity. I've been knocked down a lot in my life, and learning how to redefine those moments and learning how to take those things and instead of letting them keep me down, to go, no, we're gonna figure out a way around this and figure out a way to make this work. And so I think those are the two things for me as a female leader, which a lot of people may look at those as weaknesses, but they're really not. They're really strengths to be able to go, no, I do not know all the answers, but I'm going to ask.
Yeah. We're going to get back to more of that, the shift of things in a second. You're listening to Powered by Her in the Hinson Oakley Podcast Center. This is Tiffany Anton with the Biz Foundry, and I have Becky Davidson from Rising Above Ministries in today. So let's talk about that shift of when Jeff passed away. You were co-founders of this organization. What were you doing before that? Was he more the business aspect
Absolutely.
Of things, running the numbers, doing the hiring, firing kind of?
Absolutely.
Whatnot?
He handled all of that. He handled all of the business aspect of Rising Above and of our family finances, everything in our home.
So what were you doing at that point?
So at that point,
Rising Above?
I was vice president of ministries, which meant I was over the ministerial side of things. He was over more of the business side of things. And so when he passed away, I had to kind of merge both those two together, and take care of, still overseeing the ministerial side of things, but also then now all the business side of the, the budgets and the hiring and all of those things that go along with running a nonprofit. In a matter of moments, those were shifted to me. Thankfully, we had a succession plan in place already that we knew because Jeff had been sick before. We'd had many close calls before. And so we as an organization had a plan already written out as to what would happen should something happen to Jeff. So that just fully, went into play.
Any point in that time? So it was May, right?
May of 2017.
May of 2017. So 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Any point in May, June, July where you're like, no, I can't do this. This is not.
Yeah, absolutely. There's moments of, and I think what people, if you've never experienced that kind of loss and grief, there's a thing called widow fog, and it's really a real true thing where you just are not thinking clearly. And for months and really a year, you're just trying to kind of feel your way through. And so absolutely there were moments of like, how in the world am I going to do this? But I also knew that I had to do it. And I don't mean that I had to do it because that was pressure from other people putting it on me. This was what God had placed on us to do.
And that tenacity.
And that tenacity, yeah. No, I have to do this. And it actually has been so life-giving to me. I can't imagine if I had said no, if I'd stepped away, I would not be doing as well as I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. Had I done that, it has given me purpose and given me a reason just to, I've got stuff to do.
Yeah. And it's nice to have that focus of like, okay, well, I got this goal in mind and I need to go towards this and just keep going, keep your head up and keep going.
Yeah.
So what you started kind of another little side project in lieu of the past 2 years that you've gone through. Yeah. So tell me about that.
So through all of this, Jeff had started a book before he passed away that was for dads of kids with raising children with special needs. And he was supposed to have that done just shortly before he passed away. And thankfully, I was able to come alongside, work with the publisher, work with his agent, and get that finished. Through all of that, I started realizing, just learning a lot about the grief process, learning a lot about survival skills when you have experienced such traumatic loss. And so I worked with my sister, Susan, she lives in Maine, and we worked together and just kind of came up with, we named it Redefine This Life. Mm-hmm. And we're still working on, what exactly this looks like.
What redefining it.
Yeah, but there is basically, when someone experiences loss. Now, and for me, most of my loss has been physical loss. I lost my husband. We had a traumatic miscarriage. I have a child with profound special needs. You grieve that life you thought you were going to have. But people experience loss every day. The loss of a job, going through a divorce. Just loss is loss. It could be the loss of physically someone dying or a loss of a job. But how do you deal with that? How do you personally handle that? But then someone who's a friend or someone on the outside, how do you then come alongside that person and help them walk this journey? And so that's a component of it. It's just, how do you, before Jeff died, I had no idea how to come alongside and walk along with someone who is dealing with that kind of grief. Mm-hmm. I had no clue. Well, I have an idea now of at least for me, what was helpful for me. But also part of that is then, how do you redefine this life? I've had so many labels put on me now because, I'm a special needs mom, I'm a widow, a solo parent. And all those labels, yes, they describe me, but they don't define who I am as a person. And so how have I gone in there and said, when you look at a solo parent, that sounds so isolating and so like you're doing this all by yourself. That's not the reality. I've got people coming alongside me, helping me. And so there's certain tools and certain things that I've done over these past 2 years that are helping me to redefine my situation and not stay in that pit and in that place of despair.
I want to hear a little bit more about what that's going to look like in a second. You're listening to Powered by Her in the Hints and Oakley Podcast Center. I'm Tiffany Anton. My guest is Becky Davidson, and we're just hearing about her new venture called Redefine This Life. So are you thinking that this is going to, I know this is in a fairly new phase of things. Is this going to be a nonprofit? Are you going to run this as a business?
This will be a business. This will be a for-profit.
Look at you.
Yeah, this is for, I've already got my business license. I've got all my things in place. I already, we're working on the website that will be up and going in about 2 weeks, and I'm working with Foxtrot Branding. We love those girls.
Excellent.
And just getting the awareness out there. But the website will be a place where you can come. It's going to be just full of resources, free downloadables. But we're also going to have a store where, one of my big pet peeves, honestly, is when Jeff died. I mean, people were so sweet, and they would send you sympathy cards. But sometimes sympathy cards are they just don't say really what you're feeling and what you're going on. So we're going to create a line that really get to the heart and really real and raw. And,
are they maybe going to have some cuss words in there?
I doubt they'll have cuss words because I am a Christian nonprofit leader, but
maybe along that.
I mean, just of going, you know what? It's. I think people want to just flower things up and try to make them feel more comfortable. But the reality is, somebody who's grieving, you want somebody to see your pain. And I think one of the sweetest things for me was actually about 2 weeks ago. It was the day that it was 2 years that Jeff had died, and my sisters and I used this app called Marco Polo where we can do kind of a video text kind of thing. And so I'd sent my sisters a Marco Polo, and my older sister, who's working with me with Redefine This Life, sent me a text and she just said, "I see the pain in your eyes. I know this is a hard day, and I see it in your eyes, and I want to acknowledge that I see that." And what that did for me, just for somebody to see me and see my pain, instead of just going, "It's going to be okay." When you're in the pit, you don't want that. And I know if you've been through pain, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so just to be able to create tools for you as a friend to be able to come alongside, I don't know what to do. Well, here you go.
Right.
It's right here. But there'll be products that'll go along with that of how you redefine this life. One of the biggest things for me that's helped me redefine this life is my tribe, my group of girls. And so teaching other women sometimes they just don't have a clue. How do you even start getting a group of friends together? Well, we're going to walk you through here step by step. Here's how you do it. Having monthly tribe night ideas for you, where it's all laid out for you right there. You can go and download it, and you've got your whole idea for that month of what you do when you get together with your girlfriends.
So compared to 2005. What's the differences between starting a nonprofit and starting a for-profit business? They're both very clearly very near and dear to your heart and very passionate, things you feel very passionate about. Yeah. What do you think the differences have been?
Well, I think just really coming at it from, the nonprofit world, you're looking at raising your funds and going out and getting your donors to quote unquote buy into your message and what you're doing. And now the for-profit just has it. I'm learning my way through that right now, but it has a different feel. I mean, you still have to get your business into things. A lot of that is similar in a lot of respects, but I'm trying to navigate the business side of it and learning. And that, again, I've learned to come alongside. I've got my accountant who I go and sit down with and go, I have no clue. What do I need to do? And I think, having those people that you can sit down with before you get in a mess, like on the front end, sitting down and going, okay, help me figure out how do I need to do this so that I'm not come tax time going, okay, I got this whole mess I got to unravel here.
Right. So what is your plan to kind of get this Redefine Your Life message out there? How are you going to market it? How are you going to reach? Are you kind of going to start with the community you already have, or?
We're going worldwide. I mean, the website's going to be a great landing place for that. There'll be a book, hopefully. I mean, that's the plan. Is we're working on the book that will basically tell my story and grief and about how how to come alongside someone who's walking through that, and then. Second phase of that is then how do you redefine this life? And so we kind of have a plan of how we want to do that. But there will be blogs, there will be podcasts. They're just talking with other people, letting them share their story. I'm really big right now about, I want to hear people's story. I want to know, I want to hear from you. I want to learn from you and from different people. And so that's letting people tell their stories, I think is so important.
Well, and that's very true. I think with grief is that, first of all, everybody processes it differently. So something that may work for you
absolutely
might not work for me. It might be difficult. But I think at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be heard.
That's the whole thing. You want to be seen. Everybody wants to be seen and heard and to be acknowledged. Everybody, regardless of what you're going through. And so that's really, it's very interesting because I had a conversation with my sister this weekend talking about Redefine This Life. And that was one of the things that she had been feeling, that exact same thing. And then I said that, I said, people just want to be seen. And she said, that's exactly what, and so we know that we're onto something there that I'll drive down the road and I'll see someone walking on the road and I'll go, I wonder what their story is. Why are they walking down the road? It's just interesting to me. I want to know about people because when we are willing to stop and take the time to find out about someone, we find out why they behave the way they do, why they act the way they do, why they may respond to things. Sometimes somebody will respond to something in a way that we find, abrupt or, well, what in the world's going on with it? Well, there's usually a reason why. And when we're willing to stop and take the time to learn someone's story, then we have empathy and compassion and understanding.
And I think that is what makes women a bit different than men in the leadership realm.
Yeah.
Is that we can sense that emotional aspect of where people are coming from, and we can adjust our leadership skills or style with that and think, okay, well, maybe it's not, I have not done anything wrong.
Right.
Let's figure out where this person's coming from.
Yeah. And I think it's just so important to just be willing to stop and not judge somebody because of something that we're seeing, when really there could be a whole myriad of things going on that we have no clue about and we may never know about. And just being willing to offer that grace to someone else, just like I'd want offered to me.
Yeah. We're going to get back to the Rising Above journey in a second. This is Tiffany, and you're listening to Powered by Her in the Hints and Oakley Podcast Center. Becky Davidson is here, and she's been telling us a little bit about her Redefine This Life business that she's starting. She also started a nonprofit, Rising Above Ministries, her and her late husband. What advice did you get early on in your journey with Rising Above that was really helpful that maybe you're able to apply now to your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I told you worked with Nancy Knowlton, and she's just a dear, dear friend to me. And I remember her telling me, and it really didn't make sense at the time in the nonprofit where I was at that point. It totally does now that I am in the leadership role. But she said, you know what, it's great when you get those big checks. When you get those really big donations. She said, that's fabulous. But she said, you cannot build your nonprofit on that. It's those people who give $25 every month, or those people who sew in little bits every month or every year. Those are the ones. That's how you're going to build your foundation. And getting those people to come alongside early on to grab hold of your vision of what you're doing. That's how you're going to build your ministry. And it's, those big checks are great. Trust me, when we get a big, when a windfall comes like that, we're just like, oh my goodness, dancing because we're so excited. But it's the people who are faithfully supporting you and so believing in what you do is what's going to keep you going.
Well, and I'm sure in this business, the people who are invested in just to be part of this community are probably a little more, get your heart a little bit more than somebody who's going to, publish your book, necessarily. Those people who are really buying into what you're doing. So tell me, let's go for some difficult times. So, of course, when Jeff passed, but before that, when you were, you guys had about 10 years of this nonprofit that I'm sure there were times that you were like, maybe we should fold this. We're not bringing in the money. We're trying to, we got not enough people, not enough money, a million things to do. Yeah. Any moments really stick out for you?
Honestly, there weren't. We knew from the get-go we were supposed to do this. There has never been a moment, honestly, that we felt like we were going to close the doors, ever. This is what I've always found so interesting. We would have our yearly budget meeting with our board, and we would set the budget. They would determine where the budget was going to be. Jeff would propose something, they would set it, and we would end up setting it. And we always came in just right above that every year. The next year we'd come in and the board would raise it. I remember I can see Jeff right now, and they'd go, I think we need to go here. And his eyes would get wide, like, we got to raise these funds. Every year we'd come in just above that. And so there has never been a moment where we felt this was not our calling. There was never been a moment where we felt like we should shut the doors. It's just never. I think when you're doing what God has called you to do and you're following his path, we, like I said, every time we've never been short of what we needed. So I think probably the hardest thing that we dealt with just as a married couple was working together.
Yes.
When we started off, Jeff was working in the corporate world and I was kind of running. We were very small, but I was kind of doing the day-to-day. I was actually president first of Rising Above when we started.
He had a job.
Because he had a job, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so when we decided that we were supposed to be doing this full time, and we were actually working together full time and trying to figure that out, that was when it was probably more challenging. It wasn't so much the ministry itself. It was just us as a married couple trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to work together?
Personally,
yeah. But we figured it out. Yeah. We did. And in time, it took time. It did. It took time.
Well, and so when did you decide that? So we kind of laughed that you thought you were starting this Cookeville ministry
right.
At the beginning of this. And when did you decide the time was right that Jeff was going to do this full time, that you were going to scale? And so let's touch base on that quick. How big is Rising Above at this point?
So right now we have different levels of what we do. So we are on the local level. We minister and support local families through just getting together. We have community events for families, such as our Easter extravaganza, our Heroes Ball. We host the Tim Tebow Night to Shine Prom, which is always such a huge thing. And just providing support, ongoing support each month, just for the special needs community. But then on the national level, we host retreats. We host retreats for mom. We have coming up in just a couple of weeks our By the Brook retreat, where moms from all across the country will come to Cookeville, where we pamper them and encourage them.
How far is the farthest mom away then?
So this year we have someone coming in from New York.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they do. I looked at the signups recently and I was like, we have someone coming from New York. Yeah. And these moms, they plan their whole summer around this weekend.
How did you get to that point where how do you reach, marketing wise, how do you reach somebody in New York?
Social media. It's through Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's through, we put things out on social media and we do a lot. The person who's over all of our social media platforms at Rising Above, she's really good at creating contests and things where then people will share things. And so you can win like a free ticket to come to By the Brook or something like that. And so it's just a matter of getting people to share what we put out there.
Well, and I'm sure there's a lot of groups. That's the thing with Facebook, is that it is a marketing platform, but it really, at the heart of it and what it started as, is a community.
Exactly.
And so when you have these nonprofits that kind of pull on your heartstrings, those people are using it as that community aspect still.
Absolutely. And for especially in the special needs world, a lot of families, that's their only community, is through what they get through Facebook.
Right.
And so that's part of what we try to do, is we provide community on Facebook, but then we also, I know from my own personal experience, there's nothing like actually sitting across the table from someone or sitting in a room full of people that understand what you're going through. So trying to find ways to make it where they can actually come to us or us come to them.
So what do you do in a situation? So a mother with a profound special needs child, that's a lot of work to figure.
Exactly.
Usually that mother is the primary caretaker.
Absolutely.
So how do they work all that out? It's difficult for me to figure out my kids.
And so that's where Rising Above, where we adjust as we see the culture changing and we see the needs changing. So for instance, this year at By the Brook, every year in the years past, you've had to come to By the Brook. You've had to come to Cookeville to be a part of it. Well, this year we're offering where you can, if you live in Oregon or you live in Washington State, you're way too far away where you come, or if you have a child where you physically just cannot get here, we want you here because you're going to get the full benefit of, all the pampering and all the fun. But if you can't, then we're going to be live streaming it. You can buy a ticket where you can be part of the live stream. And so what we're encouraging is for say that I'm a special needs mom in another state. There's no way I can come, but I've got a couple of friends who could come to my house. My child may be the one who's got the most profound special needs, but I know a couple other moms that could come to me. And so you have your own little by the brook there with your group of mom friends while it's live going on here. Then about a month after we are finished with our one here, it will be available for download on our website. And so then you could have a retreat with a group of moms. A church could host an event. A community could host an event where we're providing the content.
Well, and that kind of goes back to your Redefine This Life of trying to find your tribe, to find a tribe that will come together to maybe attend a remote by the brook together. So that kind of, it all comes full circle, doesn't it?
It does.
So in a second, we're going to get back to the pivot question that I asked. You're listening to Powered by Her in the Hinson Oakley Podcast Center. I'm Tiffany Anton with the Biz Foundry, and we have Becky Davidson, co-founder, current CEO of Rising Above. And are you CEO of Redefine This Life?
Yeah,
okay.
I am.
So a couple hats that she wears. So we talked about when you decided to scale and pivot that you realized you had to kind of reach out besides in this area.
Right.
So what was that choice like?
Well, it really was just a natural thing. We started seeing, I think when we started hosting retreats, we were having moms come to us who were going, oh, we want this so badly in our community. Or we would have moms reach out to us or dads reach out to us and say, I so need this, but there's no way I can come to Cookeville. And so we've been really good at we see, okay, this is the need. What can we do? Our heart is to reach special needs families. That's the heart behind everything that we do. And so we are going to, leverage technology, leverage whatever we can in order to create something that will meet people where they are.
Meet the demands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it's always it's a continuum of adjusting as, like you said, as the time goes on and technology improves.
Needs change. So whatever. So that's our heart. It's just our heart is to what we want to reach these. We know what it's done for us. Mm-hmm. And so we want other people to get to experience that same thing. So what do we need to do that?
Yeah. Any other last minute before we wrap up here, tips of advice that you would say about somebody who wants to start a nonprofit or a business in general?
For us, we had this holy discontent of there's this need. We see special needs families who feel isolated, alone, and we were going to do what we need to do to meet that need. Then with Redefine This Life, I've seen these steps that we're going to share through Redefine This Life, how they have gotten to me, where I'm able to sit across from you now and share about still running a nonprofit and starting a new business after the tragic loss of my husband. And so to be able to share those tools. And so I think find your passion, find what it is that you are passionate about, and then run after it with everything you've got in you.
And I think that's such a great aspect, because your passion doesn't have to be a special needs family or something philanthropic. Your passion could be that you really think that cooking is the greatest thing in the entire world.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't make, one a better avenue than the other. It's each person, we're all created with different sets of passion, and that's important for us to tap into.
Absolutely. And I think we all have things to share. We all have knowledge that we need to impart to others and share that knowledge with others. And so I think whatever it is that's on your heart that's like, man, this is just really important to me, then there's probably somebody else out there who, my thing has been always, I've found people who are further down the path than I am. So like I will have another special needs mom who is years down the path, who's already gone through what I'm going through right now that I can go to. And so wherever you are, there's somebody who's not as far along as you are that needs your knowledge and your information. So to be willing to share that, whatever that looks like in your world, with others.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to have you. This is Tiffany Anton, and you've listened to Powered by Her in the Hinson Oakley Podcast Center. Becky Davidson was our guest with Rising Above. You can find her at the Rising Above Facebook page and redefinethislife.com. Thank you so much.